A youngster of 11 years of age was discovered to be developing cataracts on both eyes very rapidly. And her mother had taken her to a physician, and the physician was suggesting that surgery would probably be in order. But the mother was a truth student, and before they took that option, she went to her Unity minister and took the girl with her, and they sat in a time of prayer, and they talked. They talked about the process of healing, and then they prayed together. They prayed together. And within days, the cataracts had disappeared, and her vision was clear. A woman, after a very serious illness, was left without her vision. Now, medical specialists had tried to restore that vision without any success. Without any success at all. Now, her husband was a new Daily Word reader. He had just begun reading Daily Word, didn't know anything about Unity, but as he was reading the Daily Word, he found some information in there about silent unity. And he was impressed on his way to a business appointment to call silent unity. To call silent unity and ask for prayers for his wife. He returned home later that evening to be met at the door by his wife, who was jubilant. Her eyesight and vision had returned. A young woman was talking to her mother long distance on the telephone, and while they were speaking together, her mother experienced a heart attack. And the sister-in-law who was with the mother got on the phone, and the phone was cleared, and the sister-in-law called for help. And the young woman was very distraught, being some 2,000 miles away, as to what to do. And she suddenly turned to her desk to sit down, and there on the top of the desk was a pamphlet that didn't seem to have been there before, and the pamphlet said, "Your heart is right with God." And she sat there for a moment and she held that thought, that your heart is right with God. And she contacted the sister-in-law later, and the doctors were amazed because they thought that the mother was gone. They thought that the mother was gone. And her recovery was excellent and speedy. A young minister who was known for his healing powers got word that a close friend of his had died. Now, it was a 3-day journey to where the friend was, but he left and journeyed there, and he went to the place where the friend had been buried. And in a strong voice, he called to the friend to come forth. And the friend arose from the dead. All of these instances that I have just related are instances of what Charles Fillmore called fourth-dimensional thinking. Fourth-dimensional thinking. Thinking that was centered in the invisible side of life, in the realm of the true reality of each and every one of us, the realm that is the source of our power to heal and to be healed, to accomplish anything that we may need to accomplish. Now, the instances that I related, of course, the very last one was familiar, I'm sure, to most of you, for this was Jesus of Nazareth, when he called forth his friend Lazarus from the grave. The very first instance of the youngster who was 11 years old was my own sister. Was my sister, and she experienced a complete healing and never again ever had a challenge with her vision. The woman who lost her vision was the wife of a man who later became a teacher of mine and related how he came into unity through this particular experience. And the young woman who was talking to her mother long distance on the telephone was me. And I experienced that moment of centeredness in this realm of fourth dimensional thinking, in attunement with the Spirit that is within each and every one of us. These were each what we might call seeming miracles of healing. But the law of mind action, that is, that the thoughts that we are holding in our mind are producing after their kind, was not circumvented, but it was acting from a different level of awareness. It was not activated with thought centered in the soul level, that is, the level which has accumulated thought awareness, but it was centered in the spiritual level, the dimension of wholeness, the dimension of all power in its true source in the universe. For there is a divine dimension that is beyond the limitations of the physical realm. It is the source of what Charles Fillmore described as a supernormal energy, a supernormal beyond the normal level of energy. It is the source of all power, the power that has created our world and the power through which we are creating our world. It is the realm of wholeness, and it is the wellspring of all power. Now, I spoke to the idea that we have been creating our world out of this realm of power, but we have, through the ages, been tapping into this power to experience our healings. Primitive people use the same power to experience healing that you and I use. There was no other power at work then, because man has always been experiencing healing. And he has always been tapping into the power. But of course, in his primitive states, he often identified that which he was experiencing with the power. And he gave a name to the deity, and those names still appear in our medical profession today. For the deity called by primitives Hygeia was the deity of sanitary practices, cleanliness, those things which were necessary to allow the healing activity to take place. And another word we're always familiar with was a deity called Panacea. And Panacea was the deity of curative powers. And man, in his primitive states of awareness, would focalize the power in a form of a divine healer. A divine healer, but it did not mean that there was a healer somewhere. It meant that there was a state of wholeness somewhere. But they saw this as a divine helper, someone that they could turn to experience wholeness, someone that they could turn to in their time of need, someone who would care, someone who would help. So they externalized in their thought the idea of this healing power, this realm of wholeness, this realm of all power, this realm of fourth dimensional thinking, to deities. We are still using these same powers to be healed, to experience wholeness, to experience all sorts of things in our life. And medical science is rapidly moving away from the idea of looking to causes in physical things and beginning to move to causes in mind and beginning to recognize that there is a power that can be activated and utilized and is being activated and utilized at all times by people. They are examining the evidences of this unseen power. They are examining it in laboratories throughout the nation. They are taking people who are known to be healers, that are known to have been experiencing and expressing healing power. And in laboratory experiments such as those that were conducted with Olga Worrell, where she held test tubes of enzymes in her hand while she was in a high state of consciousness. And the enzyme activity was accelerated. It was accelerated through the activity of her prayer consciousness, of her healing consciousness. They are able to observe the work of persons such as Uri Geller, who is able to bend metals with mind, of the Russian woman who moves objects across a table through the power of her mind. And in our biofeedback labs throughout the nation, we now know that they measure that electromagnetic energy very easily. And at the University of California, UCLA, they have people who are active there who are hooked up to biofeedback machines, but they also bring in a psychic healer, a person who is able to read auras. And they record not only the physical response, but they have a healer there, a psychic person who is observing the changes in the electromagnetic spectrum of the body in color. And they are asking the patient for feedback verbally of what's happening in them. So they're beginning to recognize that the power of the mind, in alignment with the higher dimensional expressions of this energy, of this power, can accomplish great things. They have seen this evidence at work in very simple ways. For one day, a doctor was met by one of his patients in the hall, and the patient said, "Doctor, I really want to come in and see you because I have these warts on my hands and I really would like to have them removed." And the doctor says, "You don't have to have those removed. I can spoof them off." And with that, he passed his hand over the hand of the man over the warts, and the man went away. And a week later, he came back and held out his hand, and he says, "Those are gone, but would you spoof this one off too?" And held the other hand out. Well, we recognize that warts, which are virus, often respond instantly to this healing thought that they will dissolve. Today, there is an increased awareness of the ability of the body to heal itself. We have known this for some time, but there's an increased awareness that there is a connection between the mind-body relationship, but there is also a greater connection between the spirit-mind-body relationship. And that the source of healing really is in a dimension beyond our mental capacities and beyond our physical capacities. And as scientists observe these things, they are observing that certain ingredients seem to appear in the healing process, that there is some commonality of experience and expression, that no matter what the activity of healing may be, that there is something that forms a pattern, whether it be a medical doctor, a spiritual healer, or whether it is a medicine man, or a psychic surgeon, All of these seem to follow a certain pattern. In the instance of the healer, the spiritual healer is imparting his awareness of spiritual power through a certain ritual, through a certain activity. The medicine man is using what might be described as his magical powers in a certain specific way, in a ritual, to bring about a certain condition. The medical doctor is examining, diagnosing, and prescribing a therapy or medicine. Now, each of these has done its own thing. And the patient, in each case, then receives the information, whatever it is, whatever form it's coming in, and then processes it within themselves. And then they accept the idea that the therapy, whatever it may be, the ritual, is going to work, that it is true for them, or they reject it. They reject it. If they make a decision that the pill, the herb, the mantra, the affirmation, or whatever is happening is going to heal them, then they experience healing. And we find that what they're doing is investing their faith in what is known as expectant trust. Expectant trust. They are investing their expectant trust in the healing system, whatever form it takes, in the ritual, and in the authority that is dispensing the system or the ritual. So you have those two elements. Expectant trust in the ritual, whatever it is, whether it's the pill or whether it's the mantra or the herb, or whether it's the hand of the healer, whatever it is, they are investing their trust in that. Expectant trust, as well as the one who is speaking this. And of course, Jesus, the Christ, inspired what we might say was a phenomenal confidence in the power of spiritual healing. And he became a mighty channel for the flow of that power in his time. But we are to follow Jesus Christ in the activation and in the use of all the power that has been given to us in the heaven of our mind and to bring forth in the earth of our manifestation the healing, the good that we really desire. In his book, Jesus Christ Heals, Charles Fillmore speaks of this when he says, by our thought and the mighty mind energy back of that thought, we can stir into action all the powers of being and get the results of this concentrated healing current. That we have the power to get the results of this concentrated healing current. But in order to do that, there are some actions we must take. There are some activities which we must precede our activating this mighty current. And our first action is to withdraw our attention from that which we have been investing our energy in to this time. Withdraw our attention from the error state of consciousness that is manifesting as dis-ease, disharmony, or whatever it is in our body temple or in our mind. We must take our thinking out of the three-dimensional realm of effects, and we must move it to a different realm. Because the three-dimensional realm of effects can be compared to the husks that the prodigal son was eating, and because of that he was dying. He was dying. we must turn to the Father. Once having withdrawn the energy that we are investing in that effect, we must turn to the Father in prayer and meditation, in times of attunement. But even more than just turning to the Father, we must return to the Father's house. That's very important, returning to the Father's house, because it is only in the realm of fourth dimensional thinking, as Charles Fillmore described it, that we are standing centered and poised in the realm of wholeness of reality. For it's only there that the true power exists. And how do we do this? Well, there are processes which we follow. There are processes which we follow. We begin our healing process by first beginning to place our expectant trust in the power of the Christ in us. We must place our expectant trust in the power of the Christ within. The individualization of all that God is within us. It is within every living expression. And it is the source of the power that Jesus the Christ used in experiencing and expressing healing power. So we must begin there. Because we have placed our trust in outer effects, we must now begin to place our expectant trust in the indwelling Christ. And once we have shifted our focus, then it is important to bring to mind examples of how this power has worked, how it has worked before in our lives and in the lives of others, to remember the stories that I told you this morning, to remember stories and events which have taken place in the life of others or in your own life where you have seen this power at work. It is very important to call to mind those events, those happenings, how it's worked, because we often forget and we think we're doing something entirely new, and we forget we've been doing it and it's happened and it's been used before. And of course this begins to accelerate the activity. And then we must initiate a desire to be healed. We must initiate a desire to be healed. Now that sounds like, well, gee, I've wanted that all along, but that's not really so. Very often we just think about it, but we don't really desire. We don't really invest our total thought energy in the activity of healing to the degree that we expect results. Wilt thou be made whole? Said Jesus. Do you really want it? A sincere desire. And then invite the support of people around you. The supportive power of people who have the same expectant trust that you have in this healing power. Invite them to be a part of supporting your desire for healing. And such an organization, of course, is Silent Unity. For they have expectant trust in the healing process and power. Don't invite someone who doesn't. Only invite those people to stand with you who believe and who have that expectant trust. And then, of course, utilize the power of your mind to give authoritative verbal direction to the power. Authoritative verbal direction. Speak the word. Speak the word. Speak the word with power centered in this Christ within. Speak your desire in affirmative, powerful, expectant words. And then, if you are directed by Spirit to use physical means, then by all means, follow the guidance of your indwelling Lord. For Jesus the Christ used clay and saliva and oil and water in the healing process. But that was under the direction and guidance of his own Christ self. Center your thought, then, in your Father's house, and maintain your thought in the Father's house. For that is the only source of your power to be healed. It is your mighty source of a wellspring of supernormal energy and power that can heal. That can heal any condition at any time. Within you, within me, is the true source of our power to be healed, and to be healed right now. And now we're going to do work. We're going to take time, in a time of meditation, to experience and activate this process which we have been talking about. So I would invite you now to set aside anything which may distract you from this process, and to settle back into your chair and let that chair support you as if you are settling back into the loving arms of the presence and power of God. The support. And then withdraw your attention from the outer. Withdraw your attention from these surroundings. Withdraw your attention from your body consciousness for the moment, and let your thinking flow deep within you. We are come at this time together to experience a new awareness of that realm of power and wholeness, of supernormal energy. And it is not something that is far away, for we live and move and have our being in it. So relax. Let go. And let your mind flow to that wellspring of power that is within you. The individualization of all that God is in you, the Christ. And place your expectant trust, your expectant trust in this power, in this presence, that is always in you. Here am I, Lord. I know that you are the only source of true power, of true wholeness. And I place my faith, my expectant trust in your presence, in your power right now. And feel yourself letting go. This is not something that you have to do of your own, but something that this mighty stream of power that is within you can accomplish easily, quickly, and peacefully. Centered there and poised in the Christ mind, begin to call to mind those events of your life where you have experienced the manifestation of that power in simple ways. In miraculous ways. And then call to mind those examples of the power at work in other lives, where that healing, harmonizing power of spirit has brought about miracles of healing. What wondrous changes have been wrought in your life and in the lives of others through the activity of the Christ power. And then initiate a desire for healing. What is your desire? In the deep heart of you, express your desire right now. A desire that you can now expect to be fulfilled. Wilt thou be made whole? Yes, Lord. Yes. And then invite the loving support of every person who is here today. For it is in the collective consciousness of this power that mighty things are accomplished. Invite the loving support, the expectant trust of the people who love you and desire the highest and best for you, to support your sincere desire. Feel it, that loving support. And then direct your attention to silent unity, where even now there is the loving prayer support for your desire. And there is the consciousness of the Christ everywhere present that you can draw upon, for you do not do it on your own, but in conscious alignment with that one presence and one power. And then utilize the power of your mind to give authoritative verbal direction to the power. Speak the word. Beloved, speak the word. Speak the word that shapes and forms your desire in positive terms. Do that now. And then rest for the moment. And if you are guided by that Spirit of the Christ within you to take a physical action, then do so at a time convenient. But relax now into the Father's house, the realm of wholeness, the realm of all power, source of everything that you have experienced, but a vast potential of power to heal you now. You are immersed, centered, poised. Beloved, you have activated the healing process, and all power has been given to you in the heaven of your mind to experience healing in the earth of your manifestation, in your body, in your mind, in your life experience. and to experience it now. As we return from this time of mind attunement to the power, we know that we have done the work, and we will sustain that work in mind so that it shall come forth through the law, as in mind, so in manifestation, as in heaven, so in earth. And it shall be accomplished in the name and through the power of the living presence of God, the Christ, that we all experience and express. And to this we do say, Amen, sealed in truth. And it is done.